Hello there, fellow humans, and welcome to this week's shop review.
Starting with the tanks, the Panzer II-J is shit. Well, it used to be decent at one point when all the tier 3s didn't have any penetration, but now they do have penetration. And this thing doesn't have any penetration because you have to fire premium rounds all the time. So basically, you're paying to just pay millions of credits to waste for premium ammo. You can't even sell it. It's worth like 1,000 gold, and you can get more than that for 350. Then the Löwe, though, is a great bundle for 5.5k gold. It includes 30 days of premium, 500,000 free XP, and times 5 boosters that are unfortunately useless because they're locked to the Löwe. So unless you want to pay more gold to then convert that XP into free XP, they're not really that useful. And then you also have a bird avatar, which I don't know what it's supposed to do with that. And the Colossus camouflage. That looks pretty nice, but obviously it doesn't do anything besides look nice and do nothing. But the Löwe overall is a very solid average tank. Now, it does have a very good credit coefficient, but it's not really that easy to play. It's more of a second line heavy tank. Doesn't really have the mobility. The turret armor and the gun depression are pretty solid, so you can sort of play it hull down. But overall, especially this front plate here, is very pinnable. So play it a bit further back. Be careful with it. But for 5.5k gold, this vehicle is a very good deal, and I recommend picking it up. And the T-34-3 is shit. It doesn't have any DPM, it doesn't have any gun depression, and it doesn't have any penetration, so there's not really any point picking it up. And the IS-2 is fine, but it's definitely the same as the regular Tech Tree IS, so you're playing the same tank again, which is a bit weird, and why would you want to pay for that? And the times 5s are also locked to the vehicle, and you again get the bird. And the Triple Threat, a bundle with vehicles that is older than half of the Blitz player base at this point, because these vehicles are pretty much all the way from the beginning of the game. Starting off with the Super Pershing, it's, well, super shit really. Tries to be a heavy tank, but it absolutely isn't. So overall, it's good to sell for credits, but otherwise not really. It is a pretty big challenge, but if you are up to that challenge, it has 10 degrees of gun depression. It can play sort of hull down. Well, if you hide the cupolas, that is, if you keep it moving back and forth. The upper plate's pretty solid. Lower plate's pennable by, well, a lot of tanks, really. Sides, not noticeable. They're just paper. And really, it's a tank that prints credits because it has one of the highest credit coefficients in the game. But obviously, if you're not a good player, you're not going to get anything out of it. So, not really a great vehicle overall. But again, it's power crept to hell. T-34, it's a tier 8 premium with a tier 9 gun, but tier 8 DPM, basically. 248 standard penetration, 400 alpha damage. Pretty good accuracy for such a big gun. And turret armor, that is impenetrable. However, the mobility and the hull armor are pretty bad, so just play it hull down and you'll be just about fine. And then, the KV-5, the radio operator torturing device, that is also known, because that's what it is. I mean, you can just shoot this vehicle here and you're probably going to pen it, but if you're playing against bad players, which is all the time, then it's going to work just nice. It's very heavy, and it is also surprisingly fast, so you can ram medium tanks with it if you want to. And overall, it's a solid vehicle that can be worth picking up. 7 degrees of gun depression, top speed of 40, surprising for a 100-ton vehicle. And the gun just works fine with its 220mm of pen and 320 alpha damage. So overall, it's pretty cheap for 7.5k, but it's 3 tanks that are fine. I mean, the Super Pershing is more shit than fine, but the T-34 and the KV-5, they're both solid tier 8 heavy tanks, so you can pick them up. But obviously, if you're broke, this would be a good pickup. Other than that, I would recommend just going for the Löwe. I've already talked about the 122 TM and the Action X in last week's shop review, so check them out there. Whatever, to sum it up, the 122 TM is shit, and the Action X could be a very decent vehicle, but it is just held back massively by its horrible alpha damage of 190. And you're also getting the bird. But basically, with the tanks this week, get the Löwe, it's a great deal. And then think about the Triple Threat, because even though they're not really amazing vehicles, they're, first of all, a better deal than this, and they're just about fine enough to make your credits. And for the resources this week, we have the credit rotation, which you shouldn't buy because credits are pretty bad value, so just wait for to be the other rotation of not credits, because they're just better. And then, if you want to buy times 5s, 400 victories right here, 8.5k, you can just get pretty much through 2 tech trees with this one. I don't know if it's worth it for you, but gotta know that yourself. And now, new in the shop, another classic upsell, the Object Nano 7. We have a 20k bundle here that only includes the vehicle and equipment. Hey, which is nice for 20k. So, because it actually does include equipment, unlike most of these that don't. Now, here we have 2.5k gold more, and we include a bird. And 50 times 5 that are unfortunately locked to the vehicle, essentially forcing you to, if you want to convert the bulk of that XP into free XP that is actually usable, you will need to use more gold. However, you do get more free XP, so that's a nice bonus there. You also get an order to get another 5 mystery boxes, I suppose, which I don't know. I mean, they can contain a tank, but most of the time they contain like that 200 free XP. So not really that amazing, but overall, let's have a look at the vehicle. Now, before we get into the stats, we have to look at the changes coming to this vehicle. So the hull and turret armor becomes thinner, but it gets a bit better aim time and mobility, and also the alpha damage will go from 310 to 320. Basically, they're turning into a B-spec Leopard. How would you pay for that? I don't know. I mean, the aim time's already very good, the mobility is already very good. The armor was good on the turret, but they're nerfing it, so that's not great. So, not a great outlook for this vehicle, really, and even though the bundle is solid, I mean, there's nothing wrong with these bundles, there's no point to pick up this vehicle. Now, I also know that the OG-140 is getting nerfed in the ground again, so it could be an alternative if you really like the OG-140 and you want a vehicle that doesn't completely suck. So, you could pick up this thing, but then again, you can just play the 62A, which is gonna be fine. Let's just play the 62A. No need to buy this one. And then for the containers, they still suck, as always. Now, open your free containers. They don't suck because, I mean, they're free. Lockboxes are worse than regular crates, so don't buy them. The VK90 is a great tier 10, but obviously it's hidden in lockboxes, so please don't buy that. And then we have the Shah Future right here, which is not really that great because obviously it's in crates, and crates are not great. Collect them all are always here, but you should always ignore them, as always. And then we still have the British container, which are like the British. Better enjoyed from a distance.
Hi, bitches.
And in other news, the raiding sprint is still ongoing, so if you are into brain cell self-destruction, which is what raiding causes, then you can get yourself some free XP and credits. And then the APMX30 draw is ongoing, and as any draw, pretty much play the first 2 rounds. After that, it gets a bad value. The vehicle is perfectly fine, and I will play it later. But overall, it's not really worth it because, again, it's in a draw, so not worth it. But the first 2 plays are pretty solid. Let's see what we can get on this one. Because, I mean, I don't know, if you end up with, let's say, 1 million credits or even 50k credits for 30 gold, it's an okay return. You can play the second one as well. But after that, I recommend stopping. Now in this week's gameplay, I'm not going to talk about the Object 907 because it plays like a Soviet medium tank, and if you haven't played a Soviet medium tank before, there's no point in picking up the 907. Because if you're not good with the 62A or the Object 140, there's no point getting that thing. So instead, we're going to talk about the lovely, wonderful draw vehicle, the APMX30, which, as I already said, you shouldn't get. But let's talk about the tank nonetheless if you are encountered in battle, because there are going to be quite a couple of people picking this thing up. Now, the vehicle itself is pretty solid. It's got a nice gun. It's got solid turret armor as well. So overall, it's a nice tank. If they would sell it in the shop for, let's say, 7, 8k gold, then it would be like, yeah, let's go for it. But they're not doing that. They're putting it in a draw. So that's not great. Now, obviously, you don't know the exact end price of the draw, which is a bit fishy. They never tell you that, which is something that should be added, really, just for, you know, customer transparency, to know what you're actually paying to get to the end, because the tank is the lowest drop chance, so that's what you're most likely to get last. So it would be nice to know what the entire thing costs, because sometimes it's 15k, sometimes it's 20k, so nobody knows. But nonetheless, the vehicle itself is perfectly fine. Now, obviously, if it comes back in the shop sometime in the future, and you're looking for a good tier 8 medium tank that can get your stuff done, that, for example, doesn't have horrible penetration, or that doesn't have no armor whatsoever, and that isn't the Chimera with high alpha damage, then this can be a very good option. But obviously not now, because it's in a draw. And draw's bad. Unless you want to overpay. If you do want to overpay for this vehicle, go ahead. I don't judge. Well, I will judge, but still. And I will also steal your fridge. But it's a good vehicle. Like this thing, it goes. It's fine. Obviously, last time they sold it was in crates. That was horrible. But obviously, the tank stats doesn't change. The value changes. And the value is what's important. Tank stats are fine. The value is not. So, wait for it to be valuable. And be a good price. And then, get it. That's what I'm saying. Other than that, if you're looking for something now, get the Lurvit. Because that's a great deal.